Hi, I'm Matt from hockeyreviews.ca, and finally we have the final piece of this very, very long awaited set, including the jersey, as you can see. Obviously, we have the Vaughn SLR 3 pads and the matching colorway of what I wanted. But before we start the unboxing and video and overview of these pads and snapshot review, if you want to support the channel so I keep making more content like reviews like these, and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, check out the links in the description to Hockey Supremacy if you're in Canada, and Pure Hockey if you're in the United States. Clicking those links, making a purchase gives me a kickback. That way I can keep making content like this and doing more reviews. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel, check out Patreon and buy me a coffee. Everything that comes through there comes right back into the channel. It has been a long process of getting this colorway and all this set kind of together, and it's been over like a year and a half, almost 2 years now, of like this kind of action being, or this plan kind of going into place. You'll see a Bauer blocker, you'll see the GNetik catching glove, and yes, the pinks and the blues are slightly different. Every company kind of does their own thing, so it's one really hard to match, and I didn't really want to like try to get specific materials for each. I just went with what the company had. I don't really care if they're slightly off or slightly different personally, but because I wanted to do specific pieces for each gear. This is a Hyperlite 2-piece blocker. I bought that because Bauer finally brought back the 2-piece blocker after, I'm not saying I got them to change it, but I had like hashtag and stuff I was using for Bauer to bring this blocker back. This was basically the 1X, just updated, and it's a great hand position blocker, great balance blocker. It's really awesome. So I'm really happy Bauer brought that back. It should have always been an option for retail. It was on pro-only retail for a bit. They brought it back, and I wanted to give them support for that, so I bought this as a set. I also love this hand position and blocker overall, so I was happy to buy it. For the catching glove, I was a huge fan of the GNetik 4 set and catching glove specifically. I knew I wasn't going to go the GNetik 5 route for the pads because I saw some differences I really liked, and I'll talk about that when I do a review of that. But I didn't have enough money to buy basically 3 sets of gear that I wanted to check out specific pieces for example, the Hyperlites. I didn't buy a whole set of Hyperlite stuff. I really only bought the blocker. The GNetik catching glove, I wanted to try the whole thing, but again, just went with the catching glove and the SLR pads. I wanted SLR pads and Vaughn pads since like the SLR 2, but I wanted to wait for kind of something new, and these really piqued my interest, so I went that way with Vaughn, and that's why I don't have the whole sets. I also have the matching Kova neck guard. So huge thanks to them for doing that. I bought this, but they did send me suspenders and toe ties, which we'll probably put on this one later. So, and I have the matching vinyls from Custom Cages, which also match the whole kind of look thing. Colors are a little bit off, but I didn't send them the right Pantone, so that's on me. And of course, you have the jersey. So we'll get all that out of the way for a second, and we'll talk about these pads. I had a lot of people talk about this set and kind of have questions about this set and ask me to do reviews on them. Well, I ordered them, obviously, as you can see, and this was a little bit of a special order how I did this. I knew I wanted these before they were out. Mackenzie Blackwood last year had a set of Vaughn SLR2s that were honestly had a lot of what this pad became, and I noticed I really wanted them, especially for getting it stiffer, which is something that they changed considerably in this pad, and this one's even stiffer than stock, but I'll get to that in a second. So I knew I wanted these, so I reached out to Vaughn through a hockey store and where I ordered these for, and so I went to their factory, so I got sized on these to ensure I could order them. I knew no local place would get them anytime soon, so I couldn't really try on the sizing. I didn't want to go on sizing based on just previous experiences because I know these were slightly different, and with the Axis debacle, with the 20.1 Lefebvre debacle for sizing going all over the place, I wanted to get this right. So I went to their factory, got a chance to see the line, basically, the glove, the blocker, which I was pretty impressed with all of them, to be honest. But I was only there to buy the pads. Tried on a pair of pads, found out exactly what I wanted, went through the specs, found out what I wanted for colors and everything, and did that. And that way I got these now, because the stores, I'm pretty sure that I would have got this through, still doesn't have SLR3 gear for me to try on. So it would have been a long process. I ordered these, I think, in November, and now it's the end of January. They hit their timelines of what they told me, and like they were pretty straightforward with it. So I gotta give Vaughn credit for that. But that's how this kind of pad happened and went through. This pad is a 34+2. And people might say that's crazy. Because normally I'm in 36 pads, depending on what it is. Well, we put it next to a 36-1 Optic 2, and the knees line up right on. I actually brought these pads to Vaughn, put these pads on, one of these on, and one of these. There's a 34+2 as well. Put them next to each other. Made sure the knees lined up, which they do. I brought my skates. Again, so there's my 34 plus 2 and 36 plus 1 pads. Put my skates on, made sure they lined up, dropped in the butterfly, made sure everything was good. This was, so I got them fit exactly how I wanted. The boot and everything, which we'll talk about in a second, kind of shows how different these are compared to old Vaughn pads, and why I went with the different sizing on that, and why I made sure I went there to get the sizing done. First of all, I know someone's going to bring this up right away. There is like a little dent here. You can feel where it would happen right here too, because it feels like there's a little cord through it. There's no cords back here, but you can feel it back there. So it's just under this nylon piece, so they just cleaned it up a lot, but you can feel that cord right there. That's all this is, but people will bring it up, and I don't really care. This are going to be used a lot, hopefully. So I don't really care if there's like a little thing there, but people will bring it up, so I wanted to call attention to it right away. This pad is super stiff. Stock, these are a lot stiffer than what their previous pads were, and I've always kind of commented on Vaughn how you could bend the thigh rise in, and specifically the velocity line. Brian's was kind of like that. Brian's has gone to a stiffer core for things, which will help with durability and everything. This is the same way. So this pad is stiffer than stock though. The core on the stock ones was stiff enough for my liking in terms of across the face, so it will last longer in that sense, but I wanted stiffer right here. I don't know how stock the pads are for the guys in the pros wearing this, like Nedeljkovic and Kemper, but you can see their pads kind of bend when they lean on it. I like really stiff pads and I like straight pads, so this is exactly what I got, so I wanted it. So to show how stiff this is, that's me really trying to do it. This isn't going anywhere. So this is, the stock thigh rise is stiffer. I went with pro stiffness. I said stiff that thigh rise up as much as possible. I want zero bend in any of this, and honestly, I don't really want to bend below the knee either. And that's what we got. This is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted, exactly how stiff I wanted. So I'm happy with that. The boot is stiff, but not crazy stiff. It's not like a fused boot feeling, but it's a lot stiffer than those softer boots that I have used recently, like in the Bauer 2X Pro and like stuff like that. So it is stiffer than that, but it's not crazy stiff or anything like that. Now, so first and foremost, everyone's going to ask about costs on these. Contact your retailer, talk to Vaughn. I'm not talking about cost. These were more expensive than normal because they had upgrades like this piece right here, which is sewn on instead of screen printed. And I can't remember if that one was as well, but there's like embroidery and the stiffness and stuff. So it's not like there was some up charges on there. So reach out to Vaughn, find out what it is. Now, the unimportant part, but the part that you got to talk about is graphics. I absolutely love the graphics Vaughn has done on the SLR 3s. I am a huge fan of them. This isn't a super crazy graphic, but I liked how you could segment it and do what I wanted with it. When I did this glove, it literally took me one iteration to make this glove the way I wanted it, and I was really happy. Same with the pads, and then I lined them up next to each other how I wanted. I was like, wow, okay, that works. I really like how these graphics work. And it just happened to kind of fit. Obviously, the colors are slightly off, like I mentioned, but the graphic itself, I absolutely love, and there's some really nice designs with it. Like Kemper has a really nice, both Avalanche goalies I think look awesome, and they're different enough, and there's some cool things you can do with it. I obviously went with their quick slide material here, and then just weave here. I did miss out on doing normal Gen Pro somewhere, but I figured since these were both normal Gen Pro, not weave, it was fine enough. Normally, I like to use all the materials you can, but hey, I kind of forgot. I also, I think, did custom color for SLR3. I don't think pink was allowed here or normal, but I got that on there. And I did get pro logos, so you only see like the 2 logos on the face, and then you see the 1 logo on the side, and that's it. The quick side logo and stuff isn't there, and you see this one on the back as well. So everything else is pretty minimal in that sense. When we flip this pad on the back, you can see how thick it is at the boot. The boot is like pretty thick, and it's kind of a little beefy, but it is pretty thick here too. This is kind of what Vaughn has been doing and keeps doing. They don't go super skinny or anything. And honestly, I have no problems with it. I've never had problems with pads that were a bit thicker down here. As long as they don't weigh crazy heavy, then it's totally okay. It is all slimmed down out here. And Vaughn did something pretty unique where they still have a binding all through here, but then it is not a binding here. So it's all like internal. So a lot of companies have gone to that bindingless design on here, like Lefebvre and True. And Vaughn kind of went with a half and half, which I think is kind of interesting. Now, for weight, I'm not weighing these pads because, again, people always focus on weight too much. And if you just want a lightweight pad, use by Warrior because they're the lightest there are, and they're a 10.75 inch pad. So they're not a real 11 inches. So just buy those. But I don't care about weight that much. As long as when I wear them, I'm not tired of wearing them. I have no issues, and I've never had issues of any of the pads I personally own. So we'll see with these ones. Obviously, I haven't used them yet, but I am using them the night that this is being filmed. So I'll be able to have feedback relatively quickly on that. But they don't feel crazy heavy or anything. They definitely feel a little heavier up here because they do have that extra rigidity in there. And it's like when you add stiffness and pieces in there, they get a bit heavier, but it's not going to be anything that really bothers me from what I can tell. But it is a thicker pad than what some people are probably used to, and in the boot as well. When we flip it on the other side, you can see just how straight this pad is. I can't even get it on this camera view, but you can see how straight that pad is, and you can see how this is all one piece now, and you have this separate piece for the boot. That's all one piece all the way up, and an interesting design, one I like for Vaughn. It does feel like there's a little tiny bit of a slit right there, so it can bend a bit, but again, these pads are super stiff, so I'm pretty sure they're not going anywhere. You also don't have that pro gap that I saw in the SLR2s. This obviously isn't a pro pad though. This is my pad. This is not a pro return or NHL necessarily legal pad. So I don't know if the actual SLR3s have that piece in there like my SLR2s did, which you can watch that video, which I'll link up there, that show it. But that's how it is. And the knee block right there with the little extra bump right there. Pretty straightforward, standard all the way through, and like nothing crazy going on here. I used a quick slide for extra kind of wear all the way around there. At the top of this pad too, you have your binding list design, and we'll kind of show the core stiffness. So it is stiff. It's not the stiffest there is, but it's stiff, and that takes a lot of effort to move it like that. So it's going to last a long time. It's not really going to bend in or anything like that, which is some of the issues I had previously in pads that are a bit softer core. That one is pretty solid and pretty stiff there. You can see the carbon in here too. These are SLR3 Pro carbons technically, I think. So you can see their carbon in there, and they're using it on the face or something. I can't talk about rebounds obviously because I haven't used it. It doesn't feel like it'll be crazy like Bauer. I'm pretty sure it's going to be probably pretty similar to the SLR2s, but I'll talk about that in the full review. This is more just unboxing and going over everything. Looking back at the strapping, which is kind of the fun part, super simple up here. Obviously, there's like nothing there. It's just nylon, which I like. Also, I did do an option where everything back here is nylon, and it's not that like weird like air knit or mesh, whatever Vaughn uses. I just like the nylon. I find that other stuff kind of gets caught up on things on like Velcro and elastic, and it can rip. This is just all nylon straight through, and that was a personal preference and an option that I selected. And yeah, so we'll look at the knee block first, which is this interesting like black Nash material, and you can see it right here, and it's extended, so you can see how much longer this fits over, and that flap is made to move and wrap your leg in, which I think is really interesting. So it kind of sits like that. When you put it in there, it sits just like that. So really interesting how that was a design choice, and it's not cut, so it's perfectly size of the block. We'll see if that does anything in terms of keeping my knee in there and everything. It should be fine, but it's just interesting how other companies are kind of integrating that all in one piece, where this one flops over and gives you kind of a better wrap. And you do have some padding right here. I was tempted to get rid of this just to get a little tighter to the actual pad itself, and because I don't really need padding here, but I just left it because I liked the material, I like the look of it, and I'm sure it will just be fine anyways. These are removable, but I will probably be doing the strapping to here anyways, for at least right away, because I think these will fit perfectly without the need of the professor strap or going down here. So that's how I'm going to keep it. And looking at the knee block, I had some people ask about how this knee block works, so we're going to kind of cover it really quickly. Basically, it is integrated, so there is a piece that goes through here, and the face, you take this off, you can see that's not the only piece holding it in, and even there's just some GenPro something right there, and this comes off right here, and there's one below as well, right here. So we pull that off, this opens up and basically comes off, and this is still totally in there. So it's not like as hard as what the Bauer one is. The Bauer one is locked in a little bit more, but this one is still solidly locked in there, and this really isn't holding it in place. And this is a very hard foam, and again, it's going into there. So this is nice for durability things, and it's supposed to be for reaction things, but I find with strapping, you don't really need this as much. As long as you strap a pad a certain way, the reactions of this isn't a huge difference. If you use a professor strap like this, it's going to kind of act the same thing, because your leg's going to pull it down, your knee isn't going to drive it down. So anyways, that is how that works. Just to show it off, nothing crazy. You can't see anything in there like Bauer's, where you can pull back the thing and see like what looks like styrofoam. You can't see it at all in here. It's all sewn really tightly and kept really secure and snug and kind of hidden. So interesting, and I would say well done by Vaughn in that sense. But we're going to put this back on, and how you do that just goes like this, right back on, line it up, fold it over, fold this part over, fold that part over, that part up, and it's back on, and that's just how the knee block works. We open these up, and you can see it has that one calf strap right there. Super simple design, just straight up Velcro, and that's it. And it does have this other one. I guess it should be, yeah, it's calf, the lower calf, which goes right here to right here. Honestly, I'm taking this off and it's off. I will not be using this strap. I never use that lower strap, so I'm going to take it off right away. Generally, what I've done on Vaughn pads before is just done this, and then that was it, and it was all good. Or if it was a smaller, I would use a professor strap, which we'll look at in 1 second. And you can just see how this strap is attached here. It's sewn into place right here, and that will just kind of cover that. As we're right here, we can look at this side wing, which is honestly pretty soft, as you can see. And I generally prefer this to be pretty stiff, like Bauer and Brian's is stiffer than this. But this, with how all this design is, we're going to see how this works and how stable this is. I have an idea it's going to be pretty good for stability, because this pillow is all beefed up basically, and right here too where your leg is, it's all kind of beef, so it should be pushed down and sat down pretty well there. Interesting part about this kind of cover is it's a foam and there's like little holes in it. I'm assuming for like weight cutting cost savings, and that kind of acts just like when you wrap this around, gives you more coverage on the back of your leg, and that way this also doesn't hit in your leg. It's all very plush, which is like a thing on these. Everything on here is super, super plush. So going down into here a bit, you do have that professor strap right here, tied in here, and this is their awesome magnetic system where it clips out like that, and that's just how it works. And it goes in like that, and you're done. That's the system. I've only heard good things about this. I know a lot of other companies use this. These are pretty expensive little pieces. I think they're like $5 or like $5 Canadian per piece of this, which doesn't seem like much. Obviously, this pad was expensive. It's over $2,000 Canadian. But with this little piece like that, you could cheapen out on that. And I really like the quality that they do for this. It's a great snap and buckle. Again, I'm taking this out right away because I don't plan on using this strap. And it's just going to be too kind of bulky back there. I don't want this pulling up on my leg. So this is coming out before I use it. But it's a nice feature. It's a great professor strap. And to point this out, how nice this professor strap is, you do have elastic here and elastic like which is connected to there. And this is so plush that, let's take this off. This is that really nice like black Nash leatherish feeling thing. It's nice and soft all the way through. Basically the best stock professor strap I have seen, and Vaughn continues to kill it in that regard. So really nice there. Opening the channel up, you can see how just plush and padded everything is. Pretty like solid, comfy feeling foams. Some padding in here too, which is kind of going away in pads, and you still have a defined leg channel there too, where this is a bit harder, but it's still there. And this is pretty plush as well. So a lot of plushness on this, and what is pretty comfortable feeling. So I'm pretty impressed, and it's slightly different than what a lot of other companies are doing. So, but it's still impressive, and we'll see how that works and translate to actual playing. The boot is interesting and slightly there. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about the boot strap, which is this elastic Velcro piece. And I've liked this design where it is kind of just, before they use like a leather piece too, but this is just a nice elastic and Velcro. This is coming off because again, I don't use boot straps ever, so we'll take that off. And this is just a normal little plastic clip that I somehow can't get off right now. There we go. And this clip has been like on Warrior gear. And I'm not saying Vaughn copied Warrior gear. It's a very common type of clip, but it's been on everything. And I'll just take this off right away because I won't use these. And so that will be taken off as well. And I'll find my own way to carry the pad strap. But you can see the boot right here, and it still does have a defined channel, but this piece kind of sticks out a lot. That's a lot less than what Vaughn pads used to be. But you still have like kind of plushness over here. Like it's hard and pretty solid, but it's not a totally flat channel. Where that Mackenzie Blackwood pad, basically this was totally flat, his SLR2s. So instead of having a channel at all, it was just totally flat, just like the Lefebvre and the True Gear, which he unfortunately went to, unfortunately for Vaughn's sake, went to this year. But that is kind of a slight difference compared to what some other companies are doing, but that is still pushed out enough that it should have a very similar effect. The other thing about this pad is the boot is pretty shallow. You can see it's not very long. Obviously, I'm sure you could customize that. Vaughn does a really good job of allowing you to customize basically anything. They charge you a lot for it, but it is pretty shallow, so it should sit right on top of the skate. And that's kind of how it is there. And finally, Vaughn finally has upgraded their boot straps. So one, they're using a nice wrap elastic, so it's nice and thick, as you can see, similar to what CCMs were, and CCMs are pretty good for the retail, if not best, besides Lefebvre and True, because they use pro laces and they're obviously the best, but they're super expensive. But finally, just a normal Velcro system with Vaughn's logo on there. Super simple to do up, super simple to adjust, literally no loops at all, just goes right through, and that's it. Huge fan of this design, super simple, it's going to be really easy to work with, going to be really easy to change. And finally, gone are their stupid plastic or carbon clips that are annoying to get through like different holes and are can break and are just frustrating, these are great. This one does come with an offset. This one's put in the middle, but you can offset it a bit. I'm going to probably just leave it like this, how it is, and we'll see how it plays after the first game, and we'll kind of go from there. So overall, core stiffness is actually like pretty soft compared to some other pads like the Bauers I have. As you can see, it does bend, and you can kind of see this with the pro goalies that are using this gear, how it's still kind of bending like that, like when they put weight on it and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see how this will play. I generally like a really stiff core all the way through, but we'll see how that is. As long as this thigh rise does a good job of sealing the ice, I'll be happy with it. And the way this kind of sticks out and everything I've seen so far, which I'll kind of overlay right now, the thigh rise seal does look really good, and will be very happy about that. So that's it for this snapshot review unboxing of the Vaughn SLR 3 goalie pads. I'll be wearing these the night that this video was filmed, so I'm very excited about that. I'm going to do a full review obviously in the future, but I got to use it a bunch first. So hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully it was helpful. Let me know what kind of gear you want to see me review in the comments. If this video was helpful and it helped you make a purchase for Vaughn gear, please reach out to Vaughn. Specifically, let them know on social media. Let's go through their contact us page. Vaughn has been great in the past when I worked at a store to help with demo gear and stuff like that. It would be greatly appreciated. I would love to review the rest of the set, but I would have to obviously get demo stuff because I can't afford to buy the rest of the set. But I bought these outright so I could do this video and because I wanted to try these and wear them. So that's the only reason this review happened. So if this was helpful, please let Vaughn know it was helpful and helped made a purchase. I don't want custom free gear from companies. I'm very happy just getting a demo set and returning it just to try stuff out. If I really like it, I end up buying it like I did the JRZ stuff. So it would be greatly appreciated. If you want to support the channel and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, if you live in the United States, check out the links in the description to Pure Hockey. If you're in Canada, check out the links to Hockey Supremacy. Clicking those links, making a purchase gives me a kickback so I can buy gear and do tests and make a bunch of content on. Everything goes through those, as well as a Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee comes right back into the channel so I keep making more content and doing more videos. Thank you very much for watching and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.